What did you think people were exaggerating until you experienced it yourself? Story 1. Being a first responder at an accident scene. My instructor stressed that no matter how much we trained, we couldn't be truly prepared for how it feels because people react so differently in the moment. Some go catatonic, others break down crying, some jump into action but cause problems by not thinking, and some faint. You don't know until you're there. My first time using my training was applying pressure to a man's hand, mangled by a machine. I could see tendons and layers of fat. What stuck with me most was how much my hands hurt afterward from pressing so hard to stop the bleeding. Story 2. I've taken fentanyl for surgeries and don't know how it compares to street versions, but I wasn't ready for how completely it disconnects you from the world, making everything stop mattering. You might think you know what to expect from alcohol or milder drugs, imagining a stronger or weirder version. It's not. It's like your brain gets reprogrammed. You can't fight it. When drunk, some dislike the feeling because part of you can still judge what's happening. With fentanyl, I felt I had no right to an opinion. I couldn't imagine resisting that sensation. It instantly made sense why someone would turn to it to escape. It's not a classic high. No euphoria or pleasure, just numbness, tunnel vision, and total detachment. Not like apathy you felt before. It's like losing access to the part of your brain that cares. They injected it, and within a minute they were doing things to my spine and I didn't care at all. They could have done anything. Story 3. Having long hair. I had thigh-length hair. I'm 5 feet 10 inches, thick and wavy, so heavy I could only wear it in a braid. Any other style collapsed. I had constant headaches, a sore scalp, and a stiff neck, but I blamed stress. A chiropractor quickly pointed out the weight of my hair was damaging my body. I scoffed, saying hair couldn't be that heavy. A month or two later, fed up with it getting in the way, I cut it to shoulder length. To everyone's surprise but mine, the pain vanished instantly. I felt like a bobblehead for weeks, adjusting to the missing weight. No more headaches or neck pain. I'm never letting it grow that long again. Story 4. Chronic pain. I understood the basics. Constant pain must be annoying. But chronic back and joint pain is debilitating. I can't stand for over a minute without pain shooting through my head, causing dizziness. Every task requires weighing if it's worth the pain. Even basic chores need mental prep. Everything hurts and my head spins randomly. Exercise or activity worsens it, spiking my heart rate to 130 just from walking. Some days I can't move. I'm constantly exhausted, and the pain plus fatigue makes me snap at people for nothing. I'm so angry all the time. Add chronic mental illness and I'm a ticking time bomb. I hate how this has shaped me into a pessimist. I'm overstimulated by pain and can't think clearly most days. On rare good days, I cry from relief, knowing tomorrow I'll lose that peace. The kicker? I'm only 21. Doctors dismiss me. You're too young for problems. Too young to feel this way every day for nearly 5 years. Nothing helps, so I'm screwed. No doctor takes me seriously, so I'm stuck with this awful quality of life until I'm magically old enough for it to count. Screw chronic pain and the people who won't help. Story 5. People in the woods. I was visiting a relative, a heavy meth user, who kept insisting there were people in the woods harassing him. I thought it was the meth talking, told him he was probably wrong, and suggested a nap. Then I went outside at 1 a.m. to smoke. Standing in the dark, staring at the tree line, a red laser dot hit my eye from the woods, lingering on my face for seconds before I heard what sounded like a .22 caliber shot, and it vanished. Holy hell. Meth or not, he was right. There were people in the damn woods actually messing with him. Note: I'd bet they were other meth users, maybe rivals, acting on some drug-fueled plan for drug-fueled reasons. Moral: meth is bad, don't do it. Also, don't dismiss everything a drug addict says as nonsense. Sometimes they're high and still right. Story 6. How fast time passes as you age. It's impossible to grasp when young because your perception of time is different. At 10, a year is a tenth of your life, huge. At 50, it's a 50th, so it feels faster. Infancy, childhood, adolescence, and young adulthood are distinct phases with massive physical, mental, and cognitive changes, making each feel like a lifetime. But full adulthood is one long phase with fewer changes. By your mid-20s, you're not undergoing major neurological or physical shifts. Everything stabilizes, altering how you perceive the past. It's no longer a different life like childhood but just a few years ago. My 20s felt like a full decade, my 30s like 6 to 7 years. Now at 45, I swear my 40th birthday calls feel like 3 years ago, not 5. For context, COVID started 5 years ago, but it feels like 3. All the cliches are true. Time vanishes, so if you want to do something with your life, do it now. Story 7. The flu. I always heard, the flu's just a bad cold. My wife and I got it 7 years ago. She started showing symptoms on a Friday when I had to help at a convention 2 hours away, where I was an organizer. I got her meds, set her up at home, and went despite her protests. That afternoon my throat hurt. By morning I felt awful, barely ate breakfast and couldn't manage. Other organizers covered for me, so I stayed in my hotel room, delirious. Hours later, feeling like I might pass out or die, I regretted leaving my wife alone. Friends took me back to the convention center where I curled up in a corner. A friend forced me to eat soup at 8 or 9 p.m. I hadn't eaten all day. Some acquaintances drove me home that night. My wife was struggling too. We got an emergency doctor's visit on Sunday. She had insurance, so they tested her, positive for flu type C or D. I wasn't tested but was just as sick. It took days to recover. I now respect how serious the flu can be. It's not just a bad cold. I've gotten the flu shot religiously since and never want to experience that again. Story 8. UFOs. For over 30 years, I thought UFOs were possible but likely had logical explanations or were misinterpretations. Then 2 summers ago, camping with a friend, I saw one. It was utterly impossible. Stargazing by the campfire, we saw a light appear on the horizon. In 3 to 4 seconds, it grew intensely bright, heading straight toward us in the bay we were watching just after midnight. It lit up the entire bay. Its movement made no sense, just a glowing bluish-white orb. It zigzagged like a laser pointer on a wall, paused above the water, reflecting briefly to reveal a metallic object, then shot upward at warp speed and vanished. All in 5 to 6 seconds. What we thought was a shooting star was suddenly in the bay, then gone. My body and mind were in total confusion. My friend and I were silent during it, then he broke the silence. What was that? We both started screaming like maniacs. Story 9. All cops are bastards. I used to back the police thinking they were the good guys there to protect and serve. Not anymore. Every cop I know happily voted for a criminal who sexually assaulted a woman over a law-abiding former prosecutor. The police are like the MAGA movement, a cult of mostly straight white men and women who blindly follow. They suffer from groupthink, caring little for the law or public safety. Trump pardoned hundreds of criminal traitors who beat cops, and the cops I know cheered. I can't back the blue anymore. Story 10. The difference between cheap and high-quality speakers. It's not just better sound, it's a different experience. Music hits harder, stirs emotions, paints your mind with colors. I sold audio at Circuit City in the early 2000s, but our gear was mediocre, and MP3 quality was questionable, so I thought mid-range speakers were enough. When I got a good job and splurged on discounted KED Q350S, it was like getting glasses for the first time. Years later, I upgraded to focal speakers in a media room. I cried the first time I heard them properly set up. Musical is overused, but it fits. They make music feel how it's meant to. Subwoofers take it further. If you've only heard your favorite songs through a soundbar or a tiny 8-inch subwoofer, you haven't truly heard them. Story 11. Suicidal thoughts. My dad took his life when I was in high school. I'd never considered suicide before, but seeing its impact, I vowed never to do the same. A decade later, an SSRI for nerve pain from a military injury triggered suicidal thoughts within a week. I stood in the kitchen staring at a knife, imagining cutting my wrists or throat, feeling the blades cold and sting. I don't know how long I stood there. When I snapped out of it, I had a full-blown panic attack and got help immediately. I was monitored while coming off the drug, and I haven't had those urges since, though I think about it often. I used to blame my dad, I still do partly. But if he felt what I did, I understand a bit better now. I might forgive him someday. If I hadn't sought help, I don't know how long I'd have lasted. Resisting 100 times doesn't matter if you fall once. Story 12. Cannabis can be dangerous, causing severe paranoia or even psychosis, especially in those genetically predisposed to delusional disorders. As a teen, I had a 4-month psychotic episode requiring hospitalization. I nearly died acting on a hallucination, oblivious to the danger despite normally being cautious. I thought I was on a brave mission to fulfill my destiny, following coded instructions from a radio song to chase distant lights. Logical, right? This was after 2 years of daily cannabis use with no apparent issues. Since then, I can't use it, smoking, vaping, edibles, or topicals, without delusions creeping in. Knowing they're delusions doesn't stop them, just like knowing you're depressed doesn't lift the fog. I tried using again 1 to 3 times a year for 5 to 6 years before giving up. The delusions weren't as vivid as the initial episode, where I thought everyone else was crazy and conspiring, but I feared getting lost in them. Stop being fun. At best, I'd take a sleeping pill and crash until it passed. At worst, drunk and high, I curled up in the kitchen, hands over ears, screaming to quiet my mind, convinced my friends were mocking me in code and cameras were recording me. I'm pro-cannabis for recreational and medical use. Its benefits are undeniable for many, but it's not harmless for everyone. It wrecked my life for years. I wish I'd listened when young. It cost me 6 years on antipsychotics, 170 pounds of weight gain, stretch marks, loose skin, and disability in my early 20s. At 34, I'm just now finishing college, delayed by cannabis-triggered fallout. Story 13. Extreme pain witnessed firsthand. My stepdad, 55, a 6-foot-plus, 300-pound muscular military guy, had crippling back pain from deep compartment syndrome in 2016 or 2017, affecting his lower legs and back with multiple herniated and displaced discs. I don't know how he wasn't paralyzed. The pain was so bad he used non-psychoactive medical THC drops 3 times daily. Eventually they stopped working. He couldn't stand without screaming. A guy who once lost half a finger without flinching, tough as nails but a teddy bear inside. Doctors implanted a vibrating device in his back, connected to a phone app monitoring muscle movement. It vibrates to prevent muscle locking, letting him move better. Now he plays with his dog and grandson, travels the country on his motorcycle, and enjoys life. Seeing someone that strong suffer changed me. I take back pain complaints seriously now. Story 14. Harassment by doctors, surgeons, and anesthesiologists during my veterinary medicine internship. I wasn't prepared for the toxic environment and humiliation from former professors who'd scream and expose your mistakes to peers just to instill fear. It came mostly from surgical teams, surgeons who didn't do consultations. They were skilled but seemed to enjoy tormenting students. The worst was the anesthesiologist who ignored you completely. If you needed help or had a question, she'd say she was busy. When other doctors asked why we hadn't done something and we said we tried asking her, she'd lie, calling us lazy. It got so stressful that consultation doctors noticed interns showing PTSD-like symptoms. Some of us were honest with the university about the abuse. Once, a surgeon was so mad she couldn't leave early that she threatened to fail us if we left the OR. A classmate overheard and told another doctor, who intervened, saying she couldn't hold us since we had other classes. Story 15. ADHD. I thought people complaining about living with it were just lazy. Due to trauma from ages 7 to 18, I masked undiagnosed ADHD, despite clear signs from childhood. I struggled academically, eventually unable to do basic tasks. Researching my symptoms, I fit combined type ADHD, predominantly inattentive. On bad days, executive dysfunction is so severe it takes hours to get out of bed for water, mentally screaming to move while headaches from dehydration and stress worsen. Yet I can't. I can't focus on one thing. Too little stimulation causes extreme drowsiness, too much, and I can't read or think in English. I have to cover my ears and wait for it to stop. Undiagnosed as a kid and unable to afford private insurance, my state's public insurance doesn't cover adult ADHD diagnoses. I regret every time I was sarcastic or cruel to others who described this life. Story 16. Tooth pain. I thought people exaggerated how bad it could be until, as a teen, I needed 2 root canals for multiple abscesses. My face was so swollen it looked comically large, like a squirrel with cheeks full of nuts. I had a high fever, dizziness, and unbearable pain from an inflamed, exposed nerve. I nearly fainted trying to eat when food hit the nerve, a white-hot, burning pain that made me sweat and shiver simultaneously. My grandpa said his grandfather died from an abscessed tooth, and I didn't believe it. Now I know it's possible. An infection can spread to the brain or heart. I've had other dental issues, but none that brutal. If you have an abscess, treat it immediately. It's no joke. Story 17. The power of the sea. Stories of giant waves sound exaggerated, but they're real and incredible. Videos don't do it justice. You have to be there. In the trough between 50-foot waves with 45 miles per hour winds whipping between them, spray stings your skin and blinds you. The ocean is literally in the sky above you. It's insane. You climb a wave, bow pointed at the heavens, and at the crest you pitch forward like a roller coaster. Every time feels like the last. Up there the wind stops, surreal. Then you plummet face first into water, spray nothing. One wave's force is unreal. I've seen them smash wooden fishing traps on deck like a gorilla breaking a popsicle stick house. Story 18. Losing weight. I've always struggled to gain weight, not lose it, so I thought losing weight would be easier with good habits, an athletic background, and no sweet tooth to tempt me. I knew it rationally but didn't internalize it. It shocked me how hard it is. It was a weird reality check, and I'm embarrassed I ever thought it was easy.